right? It's not how you start, it's how you finish, but sometimes you have to start.
Hey, what up,
Yo,
say?
what's up? I'm Will,
And I'm Steven.
and this is
This
the
is the
Post
Post
P
Chronicles.
Chronicles. And before we get into it, just want to make sure that you guys are liking, sharing, subscribing so that we can keep talking about these amazing stories and having these great conversations. And speaking of a great conversation, I had a topic for us today, Stephen.
What is that?
All right, man. So, I'm in a pretty good position and, I've been hiring people and unfortunately I've had to fire some people. And it brought me back to 4 years ago when you hired me. And I was just getting out of prison, spent a lot of time incarcerated. For those of you guys who don't know, I was incarcerated at 17 years old and I spent 16 years of my life incarcerated in the California Department of Corrections. And TG was my very first job. And I was scared. I was terrified. I didn't know what to say because truly it was my first interview. Although I had a job prior to incarceration, actually for 4 years, I didn't have to interview for that job. I
You
didn't
were
have to interview.
incarcerated. Prior. I thought you meant while
Prior
you
to.
were in.
No, I
Yeah.
worked at a barbecue restaurant, worked at my family's barbecue restaurant, but I didn't interview for the job. It was just, hey, we know you, let's wash these dishes and move on from there. And then I moved up from there. But this was my first interview. And I had basically a scarlet letter, what I describe as a scarlet letter. I'm coming home from prison. I got an ankle monitor on. I don't have the experience, so I don't know what to say. I don't know what I need to know. I don't know what I need to do. So how would I be viewed? So it was all these things going through my head. But then I wanted to think about, what was going through your head, even taking the interview. So let's explore that side of it. What was going on through your head?
So heads up, guys. Episode 1, if you go way back in the archives, is Will's interview. Formerly incarcerated, the very first story, 16, 17, 18, going to Pelican Bay, all those years in prison. But if you don't know, the real kicker of his story is he went to prison for murder. So you'd look at Will now, you wouldn't guess in a million years that's what he did. And
Shocker.
or was involved with. So Will is now an employer instead of an employee of a back. But when he came to me, I was the boss man and Will was looking for a job. And I remember I've always worked in prison ministry, juvenile hall ministry. So obviously I think it was God's plan. We crossed paths. It may have not have been so easy if not, but I remember talking to Will sitting in front of our in the office, asking him, first of all, what he went to prison for, which I'm pretty sure you can't, number one, you probably can't ask someone that in an interview, but I wanted to know. And then when he told me, he kind of cleared his throat and he let me know. And the one thing I could tell you, so I've done juvenile hall, adult, incarcerated, all types of ministries and given back. And one thing I look for is sincere, genuine, honest, but also the way you talk, the way you carry yourself, and how you articulate is very important to me. One thing I saw about Will, I put aside what happened in his past. I put aside what he did, because to me, he did the time, right? You do the time, you pay for the crime. Now, the good thing you want to know is, are they a changed man and are they going to benefit or be a addition or subtraction to your workplace, right? So one thing, Will being genuine, Will being honest, and Will being enthusiastic, those are all things you look for in a good employee. I asked him some questions, hey, if someone has a problem with you, how are you going to approach it? If 2 members in the gym you're doing this, how are you going to approach it? Hey, if someone's selling drugs and you see it, how are you going to approach it? I remember Will was like, let me be clear. I am not going back to prison. I just remember that was like his bottom line. And I started laughing because it was just like, he's like, that's not me anymore. Then in no circumstances. And, you see these people formerly incarcerated where you can take them out of the cell, but, they're still entrapped in their mind in the cell. They still got that lifestyle of, if someone's, disrespecting me, we're going to run a fade and all this BS, right? I don't want to hire someone like that. I don't need someone that we're like, oh, when things get tough, they're going to get tough and the demons are going to come out and the old lifestyle is going to come out. I need someone. When I looked at Will, I did not see someone who did 16 years in prison. I saw a man that has changed, looking for a better opportunity. And so the enthusiasm, his love for fitness. He didn't know everything about fitness, obviously, but he was learning. You could tell he worked out. That's important in the gym. You want someone that's kind of in shape. But I think that was the most important thing is there was no like gangster, ego, tough guy coming to this interview. It was just a guy looking for a job and that wanted to work in that industry. So, how did you feel about it, Will? And what did you do to prepare?
Man, I was terrified, honestly. I was nervous. I felt like, one thing that I said in the interview, I don't know what I don't know. Right. And it's so true when, people who have been out of the work field for so long, speaking specifically to the formerly incarcerated population, you don't know what is required of you, right? And so what I would say to them is be honest about that, right? And one thing I feel like we have a leg up on this generation, and I'm gonna talk specifically about this generation and hiring this generation. Man, it seems like they do not want to work, right? They don't want to work. They want a job. They want the money, but they don't want to work for it or work hard for it, right?
Or they want their dream job without paying their dues.
Without paying their dues, right? But I would say that the people who are coming home, they want the job. They want to work hard. They want to do what is required to get back into society and, take care of their families, take care of their children, or just take care of themselves, really. And so for me, that was the honesty of it. I don't know what I don't know, but if you tell me, then I will learn it and I will do better than anybody else around me. And I stood on that. You know, and so, yeah, that was me, man. It was like it was so terrifying and so exhilarating at the same time to be in that space and doing an interview. And I would say that now that I'm doing interviews, it's so hard to ask the right questions. It's so hard to ask the right questions. It's almost like I don't know what I'm looking for until I see what I don't like. That makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, trust me, I was telling you earlier, there's no perfect art form to hiring, especially trying to work on this generation. Some people have it, some people don't. And I've been a manager or a gym owner or in a position of hiring for like close to 15 years now. And I get a lot wrong and I get a lot right. And some are just on a whim and a feeling and they're good. Some I think are can't miss candidates and they suck. And so it's just like, man, I think one of the things I do now is I don't so much ask about the position anymore. Were you looking for the position? What do you do? Tell me about a time you did this. I go, hey, what's your ultimate goal? I asked you too,
Mhm.
what's your ultimate goal? What do you want to do with your life? Because I want to know, am I helping them get towards that goal or not? Is this job helping them get toward that goal or is it not? And Will said, I want to be a trainer and I want to have my own podcast. Well, okay, at least one of those goals is in the fitness world. And you know what? Will can help me, we're doing, obviously that came to fruition because we're talking on a podcast right now. Um, and then I just asked, tell me about yourself. And those things, Vanessa, we were in a class one time. I remember Vanessa said the number one
Mhm.
thing you get asked in an interview that people don't know how to answer is tell me about yourself. What do you say? I don't want to brag, but I should brag. I don't want to be too confident, but I need to be confident. What do I say about myself that relates to the job? Like me, I ask that. I ask, what are your goals? What's your end game? What are you trying to achieve? Because I want to know if I'm a good fit for you before you're a good fit for me. And then I can tell by your hobbies and when you tell me about yourself and you tell me about your current job and you tell me about your goals, I can usually just determine your character if you're going to be a hard worker or someone that fits well. I'm not like, oh, why do you want to work at a gym? Do you like to work out? How many times a week do you work out? What gym did you used to train at? Like, that's not going to tell me if I have a good employee or not. Right. So
Right.
it's almost like distinguishing character. And one
Mhm.
thing me and Josh started doing too is, hey, what do you not like about your current job? And I give them a platform to talk shit on their
Mhm.
current job. And if they do, I don't want that employee because they're going to talk that about
Mm.
us. Like,
That's a
oh, so what do you
good
not
one.
like? Yeah, what do you not like about, your current employee and why do you want to leave? And if they're very like PC about it and they keep it even keel, I'm like, that's a mature person. They're not taking the opportunity to crap on their other employee. And then, one of the things I do is because I love this criticism too. I go, what's one thing? Because a lot of people you hire are from your gym, right? I'm assuming.
Right.
What's one thing, if you could change anything, what would you do better about our gym? And I want to see if they want a job or they're really observant and they can actually add to the team. So those are things I want to know if they know about our company. And then I want to know what they think about their current company. And that tells me a lot about their character. And the last two people we interviewed, they wouldn't say anything bad about their current employer. And I'm like, or previous employer. I'm like, okay, that's a mark of maturity. So write that one down.
Definitely write that one down, guys. Another thing that, really stood out to me was the fact that there was no judgment, right? And I think that's a lot of times that, people in my position, when they come into these spaces, they automatically feel like they're being judged negatively or already feel like the job isn't theirs. You might just be getting an interview to check a box, right? Like, oh, I'm just going to give this to you, but I have no intent on hiring you. And so if that's your mindset, you're not really putting your best foot forward. So I think that, coming into these spaces, you need to act like you already have the job. Be honest, be forthright. And like you said, just put your best foot forward, right? Because, if you act like you have the job, you're in a better position to get the job, right? If you act like you're worthy of the job, you're in a better position to get the job. But if you go in there with your head down and you're sad and you think of nobody, everybody's judging you and nothing's possible. And I can say, because I thought that myself, right? I put that thought way to the back of my mind and didn't allow it to lead me or take charge in the interview. But it was always something that I think people like instill in you. Like, you can't get a job. You know how many times I've heard that in my life? Like, I can't get a job. I got a felony. I can't get a job because I got a felony. But that's not
Think of it
true.
and think of it this way, like an employer you committed like the cardinal sin that no one should do, with your offense to get hired. If you can get hired in and get hired outside of maybe a sex offender, which a lot of people will make absolutely no chance. If you haven't been a sex offender, there's a good chance someone will hire you. And one thing too is like there is such a lack of hard workers and good character people. I don't care what you do. Do you work hard? Are you a good character?
Mhm.
Can you add to my business and do the job? Like Will said, these kids nowadays don't want that. And so if you just come with this mindset, hey, I can add value and you're not gonna regret this, you are in a good position to be a good employee. And then one other thing I will say, Will just said this. A lot of people automatically think because they have a felony, they can't get a job. And now I'd like you to go back and watch our previous episode with Noble. And he's talking about these guys get out and all they care about is fast money. But if you're sitting in front of me, an honest man looking for a job, knowing you're not making a ton of money off the bat, I trust that person more because they're looking to get just their foot in the door. And
Mhm.
that's the person you want. They're not after the fast money. They're after steady money and a real job. And that's something honorable coming out of being formerly incarcerated. I know so many people too, they go the trades route and they do trades. A lot of guys in the trades are formerly incarcerated and they do well for themselves. They don't make the excuse, oh, I just got to make fast money because no one will hire me. They go out and they work. So you can always get hired. It's just the fact that how do you view yourself? How do you carry yourself? And employers, I care about more how you carry yourself than how, someone outside the street views you.
Definitely. It's crazy. I was watching I was watching this, YouTube, short, and they were talking about individuals who are incarcerated, and they're rolling burritos up. And he's like, "Bro, you will roll burritos for the whole module in there, but you won't work at Taco Bell out here?" It's so true. You have to want to work. There is a lot of people who just come out and go straight to the fast money, but in there, you're a porter and you're mopping everybody. You working in the kitchen for 20 cents an hour, right? You're making burritos for the module, for the building for $1 or $2 a burrito, right? You making $30 and you feel like you winning, but when you get out here, you feel like you're too good to work a fast food job that pays you $20 an hour, right? It's not how you start, it's how you finish, but sometimes you have to start. All the time you have to start. I didn't start off making a lot of money. I know that a lot of people think that, but I started off making $15. $15 at the gym. And I just hustled and I worked hard and I saved and I outworked everybody around me, right? And I didn't even know that was a marketable skill. Talking to people was a marketable skill. There are so many talented people in prison who don't utilize their talents for good or don't even recognize that what they have is a talent, right? You're so talented. I'm speaking to you if you're on the other side of the wall or you're on this side of the wall, but you just haven't caught on yet and you're catching this episode. You are so talented. You are so capable. If you just choose to believe in yourself and outwork the person next to you, there is nothing that you cannot do. And I am a testament to that. I'm
And
a testament to that.
you spent your whole life hustling, just hustling for the wrong thing. So if you use that energy you've used towards doing wrong, towards doing good, even if it's starting a business or working at a business, the hustle and the mindset will always work for you. Some of the best salesmen are formerly incarcerated because they just know how to hustle. While other people are satisfied with their sales quota, they're like, nope, I'm still going. You know what make great pastors are always the formerly incarcerated because they're so passionate about doing wrong that all of a sudden they flip it around and they use that passion to reach people and change lives. You know, there's a certain formerly incarcerated man in the Bible named Apostle Paul, right?
There you go.
And he murdered Stephen. And so he turned his life around and spent his whole life dedicated to preach the gospel. So you are never, just because you're behind bars or listening or you're coming home right now listening, does not mean you can't do it. I mean, Will, by all accounts, let's say you sit down and interview, he said he had to say he committed murder. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't like, oh, awesome, you're hired. I was like, he had to come back for a second interview. We had to talk to him
Mhm.
again. And me, I had a good feeling about him, but I had to talk to my business partners. And when you bring up what did he do, and I said what he did, they kind of, they got a little, ooh, Steven, you sure? And, I put my name on it. And I guarantee everyone there now is very happy that we hired Will because look, he's up in the ownership group. But it was very hard to go to bat for him because of what he did. Now, you don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need one person to believe in you. You don't
Mhm.
need every interviewer to hire you. You just need one person to hire you. And that's just being genuine, but being changed. Don't come in with the ghetto talk. Don't come in with, the street gangster mindset. Come in with, I'm going to be humble and I just want to work and I got to do what it takes. And that will always go well in any interview. Cause like Will says, hiring people is hard and it's sparse out there right now. I can tell you, finding a good employee is not easy. And then that's why, just telling Will earlier, when you find a good employee, pay them because you don't want to lose them. So guess what? If you're a good employee, like Will said, he started out at $15 an hour and he's making way more than that because you don't want to lose a good employee.
Man, you do not want to lose a good employee. I'm really learning that so much, and I'm quick to pay people what they're worth, their value. But you guys have to want it, And you was talking about, pastors being good who are formerly incarcerated. There's one individual, and you guys will hear his story on Post P Chronicles. Stay tuned. And it was actually one of my former cellies. His name was Curtis, Brother Curtis, and he is a pastor of a church. Mind you, he had life in prison. He was my cellie when he stabbed somebody. This is not a secret or anything like that. Like this, his story is well known, and he was not one for disrespect, right? And I remember he came in the cell. He's like, "Hey, little homie, I'm gonna get him," And I'm like, "Yo, but I just moved in last week, man. We didn't spend no time together." And the next week, he stabbing somebody in their room, and he went and did a shoe turn, and he was just that guy. He was very serious, and next thing I know, where do I run into him? Out here at a baseball game. Right? I run into him at a baseball game and I'm looking at him. He's like, "Man, you look familiar." Mind you, it's a solar conference. He's a owner of a solar company, right? And so the last thing in my mind is, do we know each other from prison? I'm here with my wife, he's here. There's all these executives from solar companies. So I'm not thinking that we know each other from Pelican Bay. But he's looking at me, he's like, "Man, brother, you look familiar." My wife's like, "Oh, that's my husband, he's famous," right? He's famous. And later on, like, we end up running into each other in the bathroom, and he's looking at me like, "Man, you look so familiar." And I'm looking at him, and I'm hesitant, right? I'm hesitant. I'm like, "I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but is your name Curtis?" And he's like, "Yeah." "Is your name Rubone?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, man, like, it's me, Will." He didn't know I was home. You know what I mean? So this man did over 25 years in prison, right? He had a murder case. He did 25 years in prison. He got out on an appeal. From getting out, he started working for a solar company, knocking doors. He was the number one salesman in all of California, knocking doors, and he was making money hands over fist. And mind you, this is just within the last 5 years, right? Within the last 5 years, he came home a year before me. And then he closed the biggest deal, the Lowe's furniture store for solar. And the deal was so big that it was solar companies that was vying for that contract because Lowe's only wanted to give it to him. And so because of that, he was able to partner with the solar company and get ownership of that solar company to close that Lowe's deal. And now he's also a pastor of a church, right? So
Hey, don't tell the whole story.
yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. You got to stay tuned for the rest of the story, but there's a lot of intricacies to it that is still going to blow your mind. But yeah, he's a pastor of a church. His story is amazing. He is an incredible person, and you just never know the talent that people have and what you're capable of. To everybody who is formerly incarcerated, and to any employer that is thinking about, hiring somebody, and you come across someone who is formerly incarcerated, don't let that be the one thing that closes the door. Right? I'm not saying you have to hire them, but don't let that be the one thing that closes the door. Give them an opportunity to tell you their story, improve themselves, and you might be pleasantly surprised.
And then for those that are looking for a job, Will, what's your favorite saying?
It's never
Never
too
too
late to
late
be
to be
great.
great.
It is
Yes.
never too late to be great, guys.
So you got to start from the bottom, but it's never too late. So you guys are out there, it's not about how studied up and well versed you're on subjects. It's about being genuine, professional, well articulated. And then just, leave the streets behind. You're going on a new venture and you don't know what you don't know. And you're there, a humble sponge, and you just want to learn as much as possible. And you will be a great employee because I know you guys know how to work. Will's an example of that. And you guys just keep chipping away. Don't get discouraged if someone says no. But don't ever sell your soul for that fast money. Compromise. You guys are out. You're doing great. Stay out. Last thing you want to do is go in for a couple bucks, work your way up and everything will be okay.
Definitely. And I just want to say that, one interview changed my entire life. From that interview, we had Post P Chronicles podcast. From that interview, we had the Post P organization. From that interview, I've gone to Africa multiple times and helped out orphanages. From that interview, I've gone to Mexico and built homes
You met your wife.
for families. From that interview, I met my wife. From that interview, I had my daughter. From that interview, I had my entire family. From that interview, I was able to make enough money to take care of my family. From that interview, I've met so many people, right? So one decision can change your whole life. You know that in a negative way because it sent us to prison. But one good decision can change your whole life in a positive way. And all you have to do is say yes.
There you go. Well, on that note, make sure you subscribe. And we got a lot of great stories just like that of people that when they got out, they started from the bottom, worked their way back up, and they overcame. And you guys, if you're listening, you guys will be the next ones.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, it's been a great conversation, Stephen. I appreciate the perspective on hiring someone who was formerly incarcerated for murder. And I don't want you guys to think we make light of that situation, right? So just for clarity's sake, watch episode 1. You'll get a real good insight to what happened. I know I smiled at the beginning, but I don't make life of a life that was lost, right? Especially a young man whose life was lost. Now, I did not pull the trigger. I just happened to be there. But I digress. I'm not, making light of my part that I played, but I just don't want you guys to think that we're making light of anything like that because it's real. But definitely, I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate you, Steven. And we appreciate you guys for, liking, for sharing, for subscribing, for hitting those comments, for allowing us to tell our stories and hear our perspective. So if you want to hear more of our perspective, share this, like this, subscribe. Peace.
Peace. See you guys.